Hey there, and welcome to the Everyday Millionaire Mindset Matters episode. Stephanie, welcome.
Hey, hon.
Okay, another great topic. We always got great
Of
topics.
course.
Okay, so I'm excited about this one. It's a very positive topic, and it's all about celebration and why we should celebrate. Why don't we celebrate? And all of the things in between, and getting into the psychology of having a growth mindset and actually celebrating some of our accomplishments, even though sometimes we get down this place where it's not big enough to celebrate, it's not enough to celebrate. So we're going to talk about that in this episode.
You know what? It's probably one of the most underused motivational factors on the planet. We think about celebrating big wins. We celebrate birth, we celebrate marriage, graduation. We're even calling funerals celebration of life now. So the word is getting out there. It's starting to hit the mainstream, so to speak. But celebration, the word celebrate truly is about taking a moment and being mindful and present to something that has happened in your life that you can be proud of, that you can actually take ownership of, and just take a moment to say, okay, I did this, I accomplished this. Because if we don't, then we just kind of barrel ass into what's next without actually bringing something to a close and honoring it, celebrating it, and then opening up to what's next. So to me, celebration is absolutely 100% connected to inspiration.
Well, okay, so let's hang on to that thought because, it's interesting that celebration is something that not a lot of people or a lot of people don't do. And they don't do it for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, I think that there's a lot of it is saying, well, it's not worth celebrating. It's not that big a deal. Yeah, got it. There is certainly those times where you wonder, okay, well, what's the big deal? Why should I celebrate it? But what does a celebration look like? Could be just as simple as acknowledging it, you know, uh, raising a glass to whatever that moment in time is where a project came to an end. Your day came and it was a great day, and you actually can celebrate a great day. It didn't mean you hit a milestone necessarily, but it was a great day, and it literally is acknowledging that out loud with somebody significant in your life. Perhaps maybe it's just your family, but at the end of the day, it's a short celebration to acknowledge that it was a great moment in time, and that creates the energy, if you will, that positivity, that inspiration to keep moving forward. But some people get caught, well, it's not that big a deal. I don't know that it's worthy of celebration. But I think that some of it gets lost in the translation of what is celebration, and does it have to be this big deal? Does it have to look like a birthday party or an anniversary party? It doesn't have to be that big, although there are times when you want them that big. So I think that's one of the things that gets in people's way. They think it's some ego or arrogance behind it. It's being boastful. They don't want to be the tall poppy. So I think there is a time where people let their ego get in the way in the story they tell themselves, and that they should be more humble. And it's not that big a deal. Thoughts?
Oh, yeah, that's oh, there's a lot there. Like, one of the biggest things when things are not going well, one of the things I'm able to help my clients or even with myself is celebrate the little wins. Celebrate and find the little wins. Like, sometimes it was like, I got to the rink on time. Win. Celebrate that, because there are times in our life where we can go a long time without having some external feedback or some external win that people are acknowledging or we're acknowledging as a big enough deal. If it's just the Olympic Games, or if it's just the closing of a deal, or if it's just, the graduation and I signed the whatever, if that's the only thing, it's the little wins along the way that actually get us there. So, how
It's
do
so
we?
interesting. It's sorry to interrupt, but it's so interesting. The little wins. Well, how do we even measure a win? I'm going to give you this. We speak to it from experience, and I certainly see it within the rain community. So for members of the rain community who might be listening to this, it is like pulling teeth, hen's teeth, to get members to submit their properties for an award. And for whatever reason, they don't think it's worthy. They sometimes compare themselves, well, yeah, I only got one property or three properties, or it's my first property. And they're comparing themselves to individuals who have more real estate. But all those people with more real estate started somewhere. They started with their first property or their next property. And so when we talk about handing out awards, we say it all the time. It's about celebrating the milestones along the way. It's actually taking a moment in time to acknowledge yourself and to be acknowledged because you are an inspiration to others. And sometimes somebody buying their first property or their third property actually inspires somebody who has more real estate to go, oh, I've been kind of sitting around. It's time to get moving again. So we have this thing where it's not a big enough deal to celebrate. I go back to that. And so it's really, comes from sometimes the experience that I see or what I observe within our RAIN community of real estate investors. And I just think it's something that we need to just stop for a moment and go, no, it is a big deal. You just bought a piece of real estate that could have a huge impact, a huge positive impact on your financial future. And those are big steps to take because it took hard work. It took lots of thought, and probably you had to tap into many other people, which means you had to communicate, you had to create relationship, you had to be methodical and pragmatic and really think it through. And then you pulled the trigger, you did the deal. That's worth celebrating. It's worth sharing with others that, yes, I did this. That's a milestone that needs to be celebrated. So I just want to take a moment to shine a light on it because I'm always surprised at how resistant people are to sharing that milestone.
Well, it's true. I mean, the last little while, it's been hard to find things to celebrate, and it's but it but the little wins are there. They're all around us. The deal is the deal, and yes, that should be celebrated. I've seen that. I mean, back in the day, I mean, my parents had a 25-year mortgage party where they ripped up the mortgage and put it in the barbecue. So there was a celebration of that. But what I didn't get to experience was what were the little wins along the way that got them to that. And I think what happens over time is that we can lose motivation, or we can lose our sense of our why if we don't notice the little win. Well, yes, this meeting happened. We nudged this forward. Not like you have to have a big champagne celebration each time, but that's where the whole gratitude list comes in too, is that when we connect celebration and gratitude to celebration, is that we can start to see the positive, we can start to move ourselves forward. Motivation is means, movement and action, emotion, energy and motion. Like, we have to keep moving, and if we don't celebrate those little wins, or actually even manufacture them. There's sometimes when I've had to manufacture a win because there hasn't been a win in a long time, or a win that would be maybe acknowledged externally, like a Stanley Cup or an Olympic Games or a da da da. Those aren't the only things to celebrate. But when we're outside of our own lives and we're looking at other people's lives and their wins on social media or whatever, and we're looking at them as a fan, we don't actually get to fully feel what it's like to have many successes along the way to keep us moving forward in the direction of our dreams. If we don't have those many successes, if we don't have things to be grateful for, I remember I used to do a gratitude journal. I haven't done it in a long time, but for probably 10 years, it was beside our bed, and I would write 5 or 10 things that I was grateful. And sometimes I couldn't find 5 or 10 things. Sometimes it was like, I'm grateful that I got the dogs fed. I'm grateful that the sun came up. Like, there were sometimes I was so disappointed in my results that I would have to really, but I was mindful, and I was committed to writing something down that I was grateful for. And what that did was start to get myself used to being in the energy of gratitude, which brought me to the energy of celebration. Because if we don't celebrate when we do come to the close of a deal, or we do come to the close of a goal being accomplished, and we just run to the next thing, it's exhausting. And that's the thing, is that we get tired, and then we lose motivation, and we lose that opportunity to move things forward. So celebration, from a grandiose scale to celebrating the little wins along the way, is part of what I call the champion's journey, but it's also part of human nature. We have to be able to acknowledge ourselves for the things that we do right, because we're so busy beating ourselves up, and the world is telling us where we suck, and it's just hard enough. So every once in a while, just to stay still, acknowledge something that you've done right, celebrate the small wins, and then see where it takes you.
Well, I think what gets in the way of people sometimes celebrating the wins is the story they're telling themselves about being boastful. Now, we've certainly seen those individuals that, hit a milestone, and gosh, it is truly just boasting, and that gets a little bit much. And, you kind of take it with a grain of salt. Generally, that's the character of those individuals, but that's far different. And often I see celebration as hidden agendas. They're celebrating, they're sharing their win, but in behind it is something that says, hang out with me, or come down this path, or you should do business with me. There's a hidden agenda around it. So there's some of that. So I think celebration is something interesting, that I also see those individuals that will post something on social media that just says, I've been working at this for a year, and I'm really proud of myself, and I'm really happy for what it meant to my family, and just wanted to share my win. That's it. There's nothing boastful about it. It's just they're acknowledging themselves, and they're acknowledging it in a public kind of way to say, I'm celebrating this. And I think that in itself is really some of the inspiration, because along the way you have people that go, I get that. Like, I relate to what you did. I really relate. I know what it takes to do what you did. Good for you. And I'm that way when I see certain individuals that will talk about something, or they'll post something, because I have a relatedness to it, and I can really appreciate the work it took, the smarts it took, the savvy it took, the courage it took. I really get it at a kind of a cellular level of what they did. And so them just saying, I did this and I'm proud of myself, I go, yeah, and so you should be. Well done. And that is where the inspiration for me in actually seeing that accomplishment, it reminds me, hey, I've been there, I've done that, I get that. Or, gosh, I can do that. If they can do it, I can do it. But it's also a part of the inspiration for them to be acknowledged, to say, something, I get what you've done, and good for you. It's rare, or it's not everybody who can do what you've done. So you should acknowledge yourself and celebrate the fact that you had the tenacity, the resilience, the inspiration, the commitment, all of the things that we often talk about, to carry it through. So I just want to shine a light on why don't people, and often it's like, oh, I don't want to be boastful. And that can be true. I think some people but it's generally the people who are boastful who don't look at it that way. They actually go, no, I crushed it. I'm amazing. Did you just see what I did? That's a little different than going, something, I really want to celebrate the fact that I've come to a milestone and hit it out of the park. So that's a way different way of looking at it, I guess.
Well, when you come to the end of something, whether it's a championship or the deal or something, there is a moment where you tie it up with a bow, and you go, okay, now what? Well, the now what is the celebration. And if it's not a celebration, then we step over that piece that actually acknowledges all the things that you did to get here. So when you think about it, Patrick, when you're acknowledging Rain members with the pins, for example, and the bronze, the silver, gold, the platinum, the diamond, like, that's the thing with sport. It actually forces us to accept and acknowledge an accomplishment. Accept and acknowledge an accomplishment, and human nature. And there's one of my I have one of my, I did these cards over the last 25 years where I call them my Stephisms, and one of them is stop being fake humble. That's fake. Because sometimes, like, yeah, yeah, I won. It's all right. No big deal. Everybody else worked as hard as I did. You know what? That's fake. There's just a piece and a place where if we don't show that we're proud of ourselves, then we're also not teaching that. We're also not teaching other people or showing other people that it's okay to celebrate their wins.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't do that, and we play this game of humble, then people look around and go, well, geez, I worked so hard for this. I guess I'm not supposed to celebrate. What? Well, why am I doing it? Because money isn't enough. Fame isn't enough. The medal goes in a drawer somewhere. So why are we doing? Why are we setting goals? Why are we stretching outside of our mediocrity if we can't acknowledge the work that we've done? What's the point? What's the point?
Well, yeah, and there's all sorts of attachments to why people don't celebrate. I think that there's something that you and I both experience in the work that we do. So, for example, we go back to the real estate investment network and the RAIN community. So, when somebody actually shares with the team the properties that they bought, that's a bit of a win for us. Like, we look at it and go,
Good
we
point.
don't sell real estate, so we only look at it and say, okay, the support that we provided, whether it be the education or the trusted partners or the insights, whatever, the economic background into a region, whatever it might be. So we supported in somebody in achieving their goal. So when somebody actually shares their win, it's a little bit of a win for us. Now, you with your athletes, when they're standing on the podium, they take home the gold, but that's a win for you. It's a win for the technical coaches. It's a win for the choreographer. It's a win for the team and behind the scenes that said, we won a gold. We actually were part of what that athlete had to do. We were part of what it took to win that gold medal or that medal and to have that accomplishment. So there is a part of it that when you celebrate, you're celebrating as well those around you who supported you in achieving that outcome. You're acknowledging it in really that outcome that you experienced was behind the scenes, all of those that were helping you along the way on the journey, as you shared. When you talk about the journey, you didn't get to where you were alone. And being overly humble is also not great because it kind of minimizes what it took for you to get there. It minimizes those around you because I can't think of anything where we really do it alone. I mean, perhaps there's those athletes, that are running, marathons, or they're triathletes, but even them have a team of people behind them. So if you're not celebrating that, you're actually not allowing the rest of those around you to celebrate your win along the way. That's just kind of how I look at it. But what gets in our way is our own ego of not wanting to stand out, your ego wanting to, you know, protect you, perhaps from failure. Oh, yeah, you've made it now. Well, don't get full of yourself because you're bound to fail. So these are all stories that go on. And it's, again, how do you celebrate? Acknowledge and acknowledge those around you. And that may be the trick to actually celebration. As I'm talking about this, it may be just the celebration is for those around you. It doesn't even have to be about you. It can be for those around you that help you get to whatever outcome you got to.
Oh my gosh, you that's such a good point because when you brought up about, the team behind the team, for example, for an ice dance team that's out there, they win the gold medal, they win a world championship, and they look around and they look for their parents right away. They want to share that moment. They look for their coaches. They're like, "Yeah, we did this, but we couldn't have done this without you." And if we don't celebrate, if we don't honor, we don't honor all the work and all the love and all the contribution and all the drama and the things that go on behind that. So none of us, as to your point, Patrick, none of us do this alone. So if we
You
don't
know,
celebrate, if we don't
I think
celebrate, we're
and as we think about, and as I talk about this, is, I can actually probably think about times where somebody has accomplished something great. I've been part of the journey that got them to the outcome that they wanted. They hit it out of the park, and then they downplay it. And I go, I think there's part of me, in that as I talk it through, is that I'm going, well, what the hell? Why did I bother? Why did I work so hard? I worked really hard for you to get there and to support you in getting there. And if you can't own that, if you can't actually celebrate it, why the hell did I bother? I think there's a part of it where I'm going to make it about me for a minute. I'm going, damn it, you got to celebrate. And I think we all do because it is inspirational for others. And again, it actually acknowledges the people that helped you get to where you got to.
Yep. That's a really good point. Because if we don't, even the moments like I think about the team that I have around me, the team behind the team behind the team, like I remember getting home from Olympics or getting home from a world championships and having, our my girlfriends, have dinner ready and a bottle of champagne and you ran the bathtub or you booked a massage therapist. Like you acknowledge the journey that I was on to celebrate that because I was supporting somebody else to win. So there's this beautiful golden thread that goes all the way around that acknowledges everybody that's been on the journey. And it's funny, this world's on March 25th, 2023, our American team, Madison Chalk and Evan Bates, won world championships on my mom's birthday. And my mom passed away 3 years ago. And she would wait up every night and she would watch in real time, but she would PVR it in case we got a chance to watch it together. But she would watch it in real time just in case, she got to share a win with me. So I would feel that love, and she didn't know the skaters. She didn't know Gabby and Guillaume or Maddie and Zach or Lolo Nick or Lila Lewis. She doesn't know Maddie Evans. She doesn't know the skaters, but she was a link between that. So when there was a win, if I didn't celebrate it or go, thanks, mom, in the kiss and cry or something, she didn't realize how important she was to me, which actually gave me inspiration and motivation and energy to support the athletes in that way. Same thing when you guys, you are always supporting of what we're doing. And hopefully you feel that with me, with Rain, is that if we're not supporting each other and we're not feeling that moment of acknowledgement for the person that we're supporting, it's very difficult to then keep going.
Well, I
And I
think
think
that
that's something that really celebration is important.
I think that's a great point. And the thing about your mom in this instance, which I think many listening can relate to, it was important to you, therefore it was important to your mom. And when we think about previous podcasts where we talked about being mindful, being thoughtful, that's your mom being mindful. That's parents being mindful of what's important to their children. And for them, a win for their children is a win for them because they're proud of their kids, but they're also able to say, something, I supported my child in the right direction. And I know your mom loved when you were kind of on your journey, and she loved supporting that, and she knew it was important to you, so therefore it was important to her. And that's all that mattered, was really for her, is that because it was important to you, it was important to her, and she was going to do whatever it took to support you. And I think that's an interesting kind of thought process that we can all take a moment to realize that those around you need to be acknowledged. And when you're supporting somebody in their celebration, maybe you can even make it a bit of a ritual. There's when I look at some of the entrepreneurs and real estate investors, when they hit certain milestones, real estate investors, next time, I just closed on another property. Every time we close on a piece of property, we do X, and whether that's crack a bottle of champagne or go for a run or go for a nice dinner, go to a movie, whatever. There's some ritual behind it so that it actually is a milestone. It's a way of saying, this is what we set out to do. We've accomplished it. We're going to celebrate it. It becomes a bit of a ritual so that that it's something to look forward to, which is time with significant other, time with friends, time with family, time with your team, and acknowledging that you hit that particular milestone on the path, on the journey to whatever the outcome was you're looking for. So that includes that celebration, and it looks kind of like a ritual.
It does. And I think that it's really interesting right now, if we look at the culture that we're in, is that right now we're celebrating mediocrity. Every kid gets a red ribbon. Everybody gets to be acknowledged for just showing up. And that to me is we could do a whole other podcast on that, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people that have stuck their neck out, people who've worked hard, people who've risked, who've put themselves out there and have done something that other people maybe don't have the courage, or they don't have the tenacity, or they don't have the willingness to do. So no disrespect for the red ribbon people, but I think what I'm talking about right now is when we have the courage and the guts to celebrate something that we've done that is unique, that is difficult, that is hard, that maybe means we won something, we beat something, or we achieved a goal. But if we're not taught to celebrate it, then we are just striving for mediocrity, and average becomes the goal, and everything becomes beige. So what I would like to leave on this note is that celebrate your uniqueness, celebrate what you're willing to do that's outside the box. Celebrate something that is important to you. Celebrate where you are a tall poppy. Like, don't, for me right now, I have a hard time seeing people strive to be average and to not, and that's why, again, another reason of not celebrating is because why would I celebrate? I'm no better than everybody else. We're all the same. We're all average. We're all unique. And for me,
The only thing I would interrupt to say is that anybody listening to this podcast is not that. They are actually here to stretch, to grow. That's why they listen. And so there is no average, there is no mediocrity. We
but
are all here. We are
in my life, what I'm seeing right now is that it's the forces that be are saying that it's okay to be mediocre. I'm just saying, for our listeners and for you and I and for the people that are choosing to not be mediocre, choosing more of a champion's journey, choosing more of why mindset matters, to be unique, and to be mindful and to be loving and caring and conscious, is that to celebrate that, to celebrate you being that.
So, folks, whatever you're doing, take a moment, celebrate. What are your wins? And be inspired by what you are, the journey you are on. We're all facing the challenges we face. There are wins along the way, always. Sometimes they're hard to find. I got that. But celebrate. And sometimes the celebration is just buy yourself. Buy yourself a expensive Starbucks these days. But the point is take a moment to acknowledge that win, to acknowledge and celebrate the outcome. Stephanie, thanks for your insights.
That was fun. I celebrate you, hun.
Now, thanks.